Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast.
The first time I saw your videos and testimonials from Dreamwinds, I felt something. You bring a depth to leadership development that is rare. You merge corporate leadership, presence, clarity, and intention with horses. And that combination is so unique, powerful, and unbelievably real. Today, I want to unpack the story behind that, the work you do, and why experiential learning with horses exposes leadership patterns faster than any classroom training can. Tracey, welcome to the Coach Approach.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to share the story.
Tracey, you built an impressive corporate career at AmEx, leading teams, driving marketing results across multiple countries. Then one day you walked away from all of it. Can you take us into that moment? What was happening inside you?
Sure. I got into horses late in life, so I'll just back up a little bit. And I took a lesson to learn how to ride. I'd loved them my entire life, but never had the means or opportunity. And when I came out of MBA school, all I did was work. So I decided I needed something for myself and decided to take a riding lesson. Well, that just took me into a whole new stratosphere. Within months, I was riding 6 days a week. Within 10 months, I bought my first horse, who was a thoroughbred off the track. And he was a big horse. He was very green. I was green, which is just inexperienced. So, not the great combination. And I loved him and he was perfect. I just had trouble under saddle. So, I took a horsemanship clinic. And in this horsemanship clinic, I learned that he didn't see me as his leader. And that's why we couldn't just go off riding wherever we wanted to go. He needed friends, he needed company, and I wasn't good enough. So I learned in that 45 minutes where the gaps in my leadership were. I wasn't being consistent. I wasn't showing him the confidence that he needed. My communication wasn't clear. And all these bells started going off. These were all the things that I wanted, to improve in myself as a leader in my job, and all the things I looked for in a leader. And it planted the seed for me. Like, why are we not learning from horses? This was 45 minutes, and I just had to own my stuff because he was talking to me specifically. I wasn't sitting in a classroom and able to deflect and, pat myself on the back because I'm so good at all the things they're talking about. He was showing me that I needed work in these areas. And so through this clinic, I was taught how to speak his language and how to work with him and show him I could be as a good leader. Honestly, within those 45 minutes, my high-headed thoroughbred went from up here to a level-headed, calm horse that was willing to follow me. And within 5 days, we were galloping trails and fields by ourselves. It was transformative. So that was when the seed was planted. Now I changed jobs. I went to American Express, as you mentioned. Thought I need more time, not more money. And of course, I'm just an ambitious person, I guess. So my career took off at American Express. Next thing I know, it's 9 years later. I am vice president of marketing. I had for the merchant services department in Latin America, Canada, and reporting to the US. So I had teams in Argentina, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Canada, and I reported to the States. I was on a plane more than I was with my horses. And my husband suggested, why don't we move the horses home? Because I was ready for a change. I was really hitting that burnout, not doing something that fulfilled me. My job was to help people spend on their credit cards. And I worked with amazing clients and amazing people, but it didn't fill my heart. And so that's when my husband suggested we buy a farm, and we did just that. We moved our horses home. And I tried this leadership approach with my own team. I brought my AmEx team home. And I remember walking into the house that afternoon and saying to my husband, I am not looking for another job. I don't want anything different. I have to do this. And just by, I don't know, the universe aligned for me. Within a few months, they did a major restructure, which gave me an opportunity to take a package and leave. And I did exactly that. And that's when I started Dreamwinds. It's been, because I say, a dream of mine for years before that. And we established Dreamwinds in 2012. And that's when I left American Express to finally do something that filled my heart, not just my wallet.
You said something in your post that stuck with me. The life waiting outside your comfort zone is bigger than anything you imagined. What was the first moment when you knew this is my path now?
It was when I had my team in my arena with my horses, when I finally got to just try it. It was a remarkable afternoon because I thought I would. Listen. I know people are listening to this and going, "Oh, she's this crazy horsewoman. What's she doing?" And in my mind, I think I thought that too. I thought this can't be real. Nobody makes a career out of horses and does that well at it. It's a very difficult industry. Horses cost money. They don't earn money. And so, yeah, when I had my team in there, I decided to test the concept, and we did a few rudimentary exercises that I had found online way back in the day. And they were amazed. They loved it. The whole team day came together so amazingly. Their leadership styles shined in the arena. You could see where the strengths were. You could see where the opportunities were. And more than that, they bonded more as a team. And that's kind of part of the direction I took my company in as well, is the team aspect of it, and realizing that organizations thrive when their teams are connected and they care about each other. They have to care about more than the goal. And that's been a big game changer for a lot of our clients. It's just connecting those people so that they help each other achieve the goals that they're all aligned on and trying to do.
Hmm. You worked with executive sports teams, leaders, and why do horses expose leadership patterns so quickly and so honestly?
Well, horses are prey animals. So and they're all about survival. That is their main objective in life, is survival. It's why they band together as a herd and they stay in numbers. But because they're prey animals, they're extremely sensitive, and they're always surveying their surroundings to see, is there a threatening approach? Is everything around them safe? They know about 75 yards away whether or not, when we approach them, we are there for good or not so good. Because they've got to be ready to flee. And so, because they're wired that way, they're always responding, and they respond to all kinds of stimulus. They are just like people in the sense that they're a social creature, and their leadership needs are similar to ours. They want consistency, clarity. They need a confident leader. They will follow someone who's confident. And that's where the leadership piece comes in. If you're not confident, just like I experienced with my first horse, I wasn't confident enough to go boldly on new paths with him. And so he didn't. He had to, in that case, he had to protect me. So he wasn't willing to follow because he believed he was my leader and needed to keep us both safe. Once they know that they have a leader and they can trust that leader, they relax and they listen and they want to do what you're asking them to do. And so we see that in all of our programs. When people first come up with the horse and start to lead them around, the horse is like, they're assessing, always assessing and understanding whether or not this person has what it takes to keep them safe, because that's all they care about is survival. And once that person can demonstrate that, and we show them exactly what the horse is looking for and how their language works, that horse will comply and they can have great success in our programs. But you see that change immediately, which is what's really neat. When we mess up with people don't forget quite so quickly, and they might judge our next action based on something we did before. Whereas the horses are in the moment and they only react to that next stimulus. So when we do something wrong, they may not walk forward. They may, go in a different direction or just not listen. But when we finally get it right, they change immediately, and their response really, really aligns with our current behavior. So there's science behind that from a reward and, a reward perspective.
You're telling that they can feel a frequency of our intention.
Yes, they can hear, they can sense a predator's heart rate over 75 yards away. And they need to know that because they need time to get their herd out of the way of danger. And so biologically, they are wired to feel that. And I've seen my horses, get beneath what the actions of the people are. I'll give you an example. I had a young girl who came in and she was leading a horse, and the horse kind of jumped away from her, couldn't be near her, didn't want to be with her, which was very unusual. I mean, obviously, I'm getting extremely safe horses that are very, confident in their own self to be able to teach people these skills. And this particular horse just said in that moment, I can't be with this person. And it was really quite remarkable. And so I had another girl who we were just warming up for a program. She worked for me. I had another girl take that horse, and the horse followed fine, and she was very comfortable. And then I put the other girl back with her who had trouble, and the horse did the same thing. What we found out later is that she had had such a traumatic experience at school that emotionally she was not in the room. She was going through the motions. She was leading the horse. On the surface, she looked fine. but underneath her mind was out of the room. She was dwelling on her day. She was emotionally scarred. She was having, she was really having a hard time. But the horse knew that before we ever did. And being able to get to the bottom of that. Now, I don't do therapy, but you can see from that example how impactful a therapeutic environment with horses can be. And while I don't do therapy, I always say my horses will practice without a license all day long.
Yeah, you just give me answer for my next question.
Oh, sorry, I do talk.
What's an example of a moment in arena where someone saw their own leadership habit instantly reflect back at them?
Yeah, and I have dozens of those. And I've had many examples in our corporate arena as well where they recognize, there's something that's happened in the arena that could really negatively affect them in their organization. I had a team come and they were going through an obstacle and they had to lead the horse through the obstacle, but they had to pick up some things. And one of the things was pick up a ball. Now, in this particular exercise, it's a real team exercise. So we have someone blindfolded, we have someone who can't hear, who can't speak, and who can't touch. And so together they have all their faculties, but individually they have their challenges. So they have to be linked together as one unit with their horse and walk through this obstacle. This was a team from Toronto. Most of the three of the four were from Toronto, but one of them had come in from Australia. So it was an international company that had brought people from around the world. And this particular group of four had four guys from the head office and three people from the head office and one person from Australia. The Australian person said, "Why aren't we picking up the small ball?" They had to pick up a ball and there were two balls and they took the yoga ball. And he said it 4 times. "Why are you not picking up the small ball?" And no one heard him. Not one of those guys noticed or listened. Not one of those people heard him say that idea, but I caught it and my other facilitator caught it. So they got through the exercise with this giant yoga ball. I mean, it was comical. It was very challenging for them to do, but they were successful. So, no harm, no foul. But we asked them at the end, why did everybody have an opinion? Did everybody's opinion get heard is what we asked. Because we are always, it's always questions. We don't tell them anything. So we said, how did everyone's opinion get heard in this situation? And they were like, yeah, it was good. We all worked together. And so I asked the Australian gentleman, I said, "Do you feel like you were heard?" And his response was, "Well, I had an idea." And I said, "I did. I heard that idea. Can you tell us what that idea was?" And he said, "I don't know why we didn't take the small ball." And what was interesting is they looked at him with they were astounded. They didn't hear him say it. It wasn't that they heard it and dismissed it. They actually didn't hear it. And so when they turned around and saw the little ball, they were like, "Well, that was be easier. Why didn't you tell us louder?" And so I said, "How many times did you tell them?" And he said, 4. I said, "Yeah, I heard it 4 times." And I'm further away than their team, obviously. And so the CEO happened to be one of the gentlemen on that team, and he was really shocked because obviously this Australian gentleman is constantly on the phone. That's how he interacts with head office most of the year. He just happened to be in person and still couldn't get heard. So I can't imagine how hard it is for him to be heard on the phone in a room of people in the head office. And the CEO recognized that. What was interesting is when we went up, we always get the whole team together, and there were about 20 of them in that particular team. We get the whole team together at the end of an exercise to talk about how all the groups interacted and experienced the exercise because we learned from each other. And the CEO asked to share the story, which was amazing because I'm very careful not to throw clients under the bus in front of the larger group. I want that learning to happen, gently, but effectively. And he was happy to share that actual experience. But what was really great about it was he said, that can't happen. Like he really recognized the shortcoming he had in that situation, but he also gave his team full license to call him out on it and be loud. And that was amazing. He really humanized himself in front of his team and became one with his team and said, "Listen, I don't have all the answers. And if I'm not hearing great ideas, I'm just terrified to think of what we've missed and what we haven't improved upon because we've just not heard it." So, it was a good learning experience for our Australian colleague because he learned he didn't jump up and down. He still followed along and did what they wanted to do. And now he had license. They all had full license to say, "I'm not moving forward until you at least hear what I have to say," which was really great. Great team, great leader.
Yes, perfect You often say that horses don't follow titles. They follow clarity, trust, intention, and presence. What are the top leadership behaviors horses force people to confront?
I would say confidence is the first one, because if you really lack confidence, the horse will feel that. And we have a lot of clients that will come into our arena fearful, because they haven't been around horses or they've had a negative experience, usually in the Caribbean. They had some holiday experience that has turned them off horses for life. So we have to work very carefully to help that person overcome the fear before we move forward in the exercises. And we do that very successfully. I've never had someone not participate and learn and have a great experience. But I would say confidence is the first thing that they need to really muster up in order to get started. And then it's that vision. It's really having a vision of what they're trying to do. They have to have a plan in their head and be able to convey that plan. When they get stuck with my horses, it's often because they are, wishy-washy in what they're trying to do, or the team hasn't aligned on what success looks like. So the horse is getting conflicting messages. So real clear communication and clarity on what they're trying to do are probably the three things that come out, and that confidence piece. Communication is a thread through every exercise we do. So once that person is confident, has a plan, and knows what they're trying to do, they have to be able to clearly communicate that. And when they have all those three things, they can have some solid success with the horses and really see where the gaps are.
How do those behaviors translate directly into high performance teams in business or sports?
Well, this is critical. I mean, you can just imagine a team that has a leader that hasn't really conveyed what the goal is, what they're trying to accomplish, or is not clear on what their definition of success is. Then you have people going in their own direction and trying to do their own thing. So we have to have strong leaders that understand the need to be very clear, to be very concise, and have our teams aligned on that specific goal. But then what becomes the next piece of it in order for them to have success is to make sure that those individuals within their team are connected. And this
Mhm.
is an area that we've had a lot of success and seen some real transformations in organizations, and organizational practices, actually. We've done a lot of work with cross-functional teamwork. So I don't know if you're ready for another example, but that's a great example where we can see how the rubber hits the road when they leave our arena.
Yes, go on, go on.
Sure, sure. So we've done some cross-functional teamwork, and if you've spent any time in a corporate organization and been part of those teams, they're extremely challenging to be successful in, because a cross-functional team means they've taken you from your regular job and asked you to allocate a percentage of your time on this special project. And it's usually quite an honor to be asked to be on those projects. They're usually high profile projects, and they want, the best of the best from the organization to come together. So in theory, it should be a fantastic idea and highly successful. They often fail because it's only a part of their job. They're not fully committed to that goal. But what I found in my experience, both working in those teams and seeing the ones that worked very well and seeing the ones that didn't, was what was often missing was the people weren't connected to each other. And when that happens, you sit at a cross-functional review where we're going through where's the project at and how are things going. And people will go around the table and they'll say, well, I didn't get my stuff done this week because so-and-so didn't give me theirs. And they just start throwing each other under the bus and saying, they have a reason because it was somebody else didn't do something. And
Mm.
it was really remarkable to hear this when I was participating in a cross-functional team once, because I hadn't seen that in my organizations that I worked with in the past. But what became really apparent is it would never happen if you had a good relationship with the person who had to deliver something to you. Because you'd have open communication, you'd understand they were struggling, and you'd probably step in to help them be successful because you want the whole team to be successful and you want that person to be successful. But when all you're holding on to is a corporate goal, you're never going to have the heart for that you will for another person. So when we've done cross-functional teamwork, I often say to them when they come in, I say, I'm here to connect your team. I'm here to get you working effectively together. But I'm going to tell you one of my biggest goals is to help you be friends first. I
Mm.
want you to care about each other as a person because you'll never let your friends down. You're never gonna you'll let your company down all day long. You'll let yourself down, but you won't let your friends down often. And we do exactly that. We have a half day program for cross-functional teams that accelerates the team building process. It takes them through trust and authenticity and strong communication. And we start with a team that often doesn't know each other, and there's silence in my boardroom. And then by the time we've done one exercise, I'm blowing a whistle to stop the talking in order to do a debriefing. And by the end of it, they are having lunch like a group of old friends, like they've been together for decades. It's incredible to watch. A particular company that we worked with quite extensively actually had a external consultant come in and review their process because they would bring 4 or 5 teams a year.
Mhm.
And when they reviewed the process, they came to one of our sessions, went through the whole process on how they launched their cross-functional teams. And when they came back with their recommendation, the first step was, do you take them to Dreamwinds? Because it works,
Mhm.
which was amazing.
Perfect. Perfect. What surprised you the most about the way leaders react when they realize their communication wasn't as clear as they thought?
Well, it's interesting because some leaders are much more open than others. I'm very fortunate in the one sense in that when a leader books our type of program, they tend to be a leader that's more open to feedback. But I have had leaders that have brought their teams because they're there to fix the team and don't realize that they have their own stuff. But what I
Mm,
hear most when they discover that it is, oh my goodness, I do that all the time. Oh my goodness, I had no idea I was doing that all the time. That type of thing. But it's sort of like they will have that aha moment when they're working with the horse and really get down to, okay, that can't happen. Similar to my, Toronto head office guy where he was like, well, that can't happen. That I need to fix that. I've had other circumstances where my horses are ruthless with the CEO, and because they don't care, they don't know what he does or she does, they don't know what role they're in, and they will just keep, just not helping that person because they're trying to get them to learn. And I've often thought to myself, like throw them a bone. They need to, they need a minute of success to get this going. But I have a good laugh in those moments because my horses are like, nope, you don't get it. Nope, I'm not doing it. Like he still has to sign the check. I'll take it from here. But
yeah, but
but yeah, it's often it can be a little jarring for some people when it's a real moment of, oh my goodness, I had no idea. Because when they start to realize that what the horse is showing them is also what people feel. When you have somebody who comes in really bold, who's taking over and directing everybody, the horse will not respond well to that, and they start to realize neither do people. Nobody wants that. People want that collaborative.
yeah, we can learn so much from animals. Uh,
Absolutely.
I want to overcome some industry stereotypes. Like you told me that you fight the fluffy label tooth and nail. Why do so many people misunderstand equine-assisted learning?
I think it's a newer industry. It's growing, and quite frankly, I do operate at in a different way than a lot of people in my industry. So there's a number of different modalities. Working with horses, from a growth or learning perspective, kind of started with therapeutic riding. So it was more around people who were disabled or cognitively challenged. And
Mhm.
there's amazing work that happens in that field that does, wonderful, wonderful things. And then it sort of evolved into equine therapy, where people were really seeing the therapeutic value, and, emotional trauma therapy, all of that stuff, because people are very authentic when they're with the horses. They open up in a different way. And so there's a lot of opportunity for therapeutic value. So that was kind of the next phase of growth in my industry. The learning side of it is kind of new, and there's sort of two modalities or two ends of the spectrum, I guess, in my industry. And one of them is more wellness, and that sometimes gets the fluffy label because it's sort of go and feel good with a horse, spend time with the
Mhm.
horse, have that heart connection. And it's beautiful, and it's wonderful work. And if you want to go on a wellness retreat and come out feeling better, that's amazing. Those are great opportunities to do that. But what happens when I try to have a corporate conversation is that's what people know. And I always say, you're not coming to Dreamwinds just to feel better. You're coming here to be better and do better when you leave. Like, I'm going to give you solid skills. I have a very objective-based curriculum of exercises that are much more, engaging and active and forward-moving in the program. And so that's what really lends itself to the learning aspect for me. As a kind of type A leader myself, I needed to be able to say, if you do this, you will learn this, and this is how you'll be different. This is where things will transform in your organization. You can't do that just sitting in a field feeling the energy of the horse. It's a very different type of program. But I feel like some of those wellness things are what people immediately think of, or the therapy side of it. So I'm really trying to educate the world to know, there's so much more opportunity to learn with horses. And I mean, my particular program, and I teach the certification, is an objective-based program that's actually been tested through research and founded in psychological theory of, positive reinforcement theory. So it's really important to know the difference, value in all of those spaces, but this is very different and often misconstrued as something a little more fluffy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's research backed totally, and you have so much references, so much testimonials.
Absolutely.
People can see all that on your website. And
Yes.
you said also there are so many horse lovers who were healed by their horses, and they're
Yeah,
searching for a way to turn that into meaningful work. And
absolutely.
because of that, you decided to create your certification program.
I did.
So you saw that gap, and you give that to people. For someone listening who love horses but doesn't know where to start, what does a purposeful career in equine assisted learning look like?
Well, it's amazing because it can look different for so many people. I always say to my graduates, you want to start with where your passion and your experience intersects, as I did. My experience has always been corporate and business. So for me, what I learned from my horse was really leadership based, which lent itself well to this space. And this is where I started. But I have graduates who are doing work with first responders and veterans. And again, it's PTSD based work, but not from a therapeutic perspective, but more from a building those skills to thrive in life perspective. So I always say, in a therapy environment, our therapists are trained to look backwards and deal with trauma. We take people as they come and help them move forward and work towards thriving in life and giving them those skills to thrive. We have graduates working with youth. I've done a lot of work with youth myself, youth at risk, and high school leadership programs is another area that I quite enjoy working in. We've done young kids as well. There's camp programs you can do with this work. It just depends on who you want to serve. Women's wellness, women's development, women's leadership is another passion of mine. I haven't met anybody who can't benefit from this type of program. I have worked with, I've done bridesmaid groups, I've done family reunions, just bringing people together, helping them communicate and understand themselves better there's just such tremendous value in that. And the horses will highlight where that work needs to happen and where the rubs are in those relationships often.
When we talk about the future, uh, you work with corporate teams, sport teams, women's retreats, entrepreneurs. Why do you think equine assisted leadership is exploding right now?
I think people are looking for new answers, and I think there's a need for more experiential opportunities to do that. We've been sitting behind desks most of our lives.
Mhm.
It's taken a long time, even for our school systems, to recognize that not everybody learns from listening, and schools have a hard time getting kids to just sit still and listen and take in that information. But when we can put that kinesthetic link to all of that learning and get people physically and experiencing that learning, it sticks. And it answers the call to any type of learning person, because our particular program, we make sure that we are doing verbal communication, we're doing verbal instruction, we are doing visual. We have visuals that share what the exercise is about and what the objectives are, and then we have that experience. So we cover all different types of learners. And that's just such a rich learning environment and much more inviting than most people are getting in just sitting in a classroom and trying to listen to one person who's the expert. I have multiple four-legged experts that have a different opinion and a different way of teaching. So you get a really robust learning experience in that environment.
Different approaches, yeah, different
Absolutely,
perspectives.
yeah. And as soon as we mix the teams up, I've had organizations who bring teams all the time and we'll have a lot of overlap. I've had people do the same program 6, 7 times when we've had those big contracts. And they will tell you every single time they learn something new because they might have a different teammate or they have a different horse and there's a different circumstance. It's amazing. And this particular certification that I teach is founded in the Cartier Farms building block program, which are the exercises that are part of my certification. And that's what's been research backed. And it's so robust. There's so many different exercises, so many really specific things we can focus on and help drive that learning home based on the objectives of our clients.
Where do you see this work going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I really see it exploding. I mean, I have a lot of interest, obviously, in the certification, and there's a lot of different certifications available out there. So there's lots of different avenues and paths for people to take to this line of work. I think that as as the world has changed a little bit, even coming through COVID has been a lot of a big experience for people of our generation, that it's really taken us out of communication. It's put us on these systems where we're, we're thousands of miles apart, but able to connect, which is amazing. But we lose a lot of that body language and true connection because we're behind a screen. I know teachers who've been teaching for years and have had to be online with kids who don't even put their videos on. So there's just zero connection. And we've really got a lot of work, I think, to pull people out of that, get kids off of screens. I think there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity to start teaching kids in a more experiential way with horses and without, to get them off the screens. Everything's moving to technology when really we need to keep building those human connections. We're nothing without it. We're a social creature. And if we lose sight of that and just keep, even with AI, we're not talking to people as much. We've got our buddies on our AI systems that can entertain us all day long. It's a slippery slope. So my hope and desire is to make sure that experiential learning is exploding in all avenues, and most particularly bringing people back to nature with the horse is, I think, an extremely valuable path to take.
Definitely. Tracey, I love the purpose behind your work.
Thank you.
That's really amazing. You find yourself totally. For everyone listening, what's the best way to connect with you, explore Dreamwinds, or learn more about the certification program?
Absolutely. Well, I invite you to visit my website at dreamwinds.com. All my services are on there and there's opportunities to connect. I'm always available. So if you were to send me an email through my website and let me know you want a phone call, I'm happy to. I will talk equine assisted learning all day long. So I will always make time for people who want to learn about it, the certification, the team building, the different opportunities in the industry, regardless of, whether they're looking to do a program with me or whether they're just exploring different career opportunities. I do welcome the chance to talk to them and share what we've done and what other people are doing with our program, and certainly share our programs and how we help transform organizations. I'm very proud that we've had the opportunity to work with some of the largest brands in the world, like Coca-Cola and American Express and CIBC and Iron Mountain and Cisco and all of those, and Google. And I look forward to the opportunity to helping other organizations. Now that we're down here in the US, I will say we've just recently relocated to Tryon. So our programs are based in Tryon, but our certification can be anywhere in the world. So love to talk.
Great. Tracey, thank you. This wasn't just about leadership, it was about clarity, purpose, and building a career aligned with your calling. See you all in the next episode. Tracey, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity to share. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast.